Good morning, everyone. My name is Dennis Purcell. I'm a technology specialist at Saxton Bradley. Congratulations on your new system. We're going to show you a few features to get you started. With me is Ray Near, the company president at Saxton Bradley. And he's going to demonstrate how we pull this down. There is a technique to it. To get this in place so the screen will be filled by your computer, you're going to pull down until you feel resistance to the extent of it, and then you're going to slowly release until it locks in place. Now it's in a position where the projector will fill this white area with your computer screen, already preset. Now to get it back up, it's a little bit of a trick. We're going to do a quick pull down and slowly ease it up. And to get it all the way up, again, quick and then ease it up. Thank you, Ray. Inside your new cabinet, there's a box that has a few different pieces of documentation and cables, operating instructions for your microphones. But the piece we need here is your remote control for your projector. And from this remote, there is a separate on and off button. I'm going to point this at the sensor for the, either at the screen or at the sensor for the projector, which is right near the lens. But you should be able to be in the room, point at the screen, press that green on button in the top left of the remote. You'll see the power light turn blue. You'll hear the machine start to turn on. The first image you're going to see that we see here is that there's no input. So the next thing we'll do is we'll talk about how to connect your computer to the system. Let's talk about how we get your document camera and computer hooked up correctly so that you're able to decide if you want to show what's on the document camera or you want to show what's on your computer. At your teacher presentation station, you're going to find a VGA cable that actually comes from the wall plate, goes through your stand. That VGA plug-in is going to go directly into your document camera. In the back of your document camera, there's an RGB out. There may even be an image to give you a cue there. I'm going to plug that in. And when I have that plugged in, you'll see that's going to give my document camera image. It's going to send that to the projector so I can see a live image of what's under my document camera. So for student work, books, owl pellets, whatever you're going to put under a document camera, I can view that here. In your presentation station here, you also have a box of accessories. In that box, you have a second VGA cable. We're going to run that VGA cable from the document camera to your computer. So this should be pretty similar to how you've used your Elmos before. I'm going to plug this into where it says RGB in because we're sending the signal from our computer into the document camera. I plug that in. I find the VGA port on my laptop. Notice it's still the document camera image being projected. You have the ability to switch between your document camera and your laptop from the document camera itself. By pressing a PC button, that switches to my laptop. Now, in order to get that image from the laptop, you may also have to select a combination of buttons. On your laptops, it should be function F8, and that should send the signal through. So we have the arrangement of wires. We can switch between PC. I'm going to select the camera button on the Elmo to go to my document camera. And this way you're able to teach using both tools to enhance instruction. But there is what we call a 3.5 mini plug. It looks like a headphone jack. You're going to plug this into your computer into the headphone jack, and what that will do is it will allow you to hear your computer sound through your new sound system in your classroom. I'm going to adjust the sound for that computer. I'll show you how to do that in just a little bit. And I'm just going to test this by going to the speaker on my desktop. And there I see that sound is coming through my speakers. That way, if you're showing a lesson or a website that has sound to your students, you'll be able to hear that throughout the classroom with your new system. Let's talk about your sound system. Probably one of the most valuable parts of your new classroom audiovisual system. My background is teaching. When I was in a classroom, I taught in an open area classroom, and probably the most valuable piece of technology I had in that room was my sound system. It impacted teaching and learning the most of any technology I had. So let's talk about the value of it, make sure you understand how to use it. I have a PowerPoint up here. I'm just going to start this up the way I usually would. If you have a PowerPoint remote for your computer, you can also use that. But your system, just to talk a little bit about the sound system, really the primary use of this is for teacher voice enhancement and student voice enhancement. So we'll talk about the value of that, how it works, and really we want to encourage you to try this system out, make it part of your daily practice, because we really feel like you'll see the benefits of it in your teaching and learning. The way it works is, in the room, there is a dome sensor. It's an infrared receiver. Your microphones, and we'll show you how to use these, send or emit an infrared signal that gets received by that dome. So we'll talk about just how you use this and make sure you're not blocking that signal. But if you just wear the teacher mic, or the students are holding the student mic, you'll be able to send that signal easily. It bounces off walls so that your voice is getting picked up. And the speakers fill this room with sound similar to the way you would fill an aquarium with water, evenly. And the benefit of that is this. We know that it's just science that sound diminishes over distance. What this allows is when you're speaking or when a student's speaking, those people that are furthest from you are going to get the same benefit of sound as those that are nearest to you. That way, as a teacher, we know that you plan and you choose your words very carefully for your students. This ensures that those new terms, new vocabulary students are learning are heard correctly. And the words you chose are heard correctly, so your message gets across and you eliminate the opportunity for too many misconceptions. There's benefits really for anyone using this. I would encourage you to have your staff meetings in rooms that have the audio enhancement system. But for teachers, I know when I first started teaching, I would lose my voice a couple times a year at least and go home with voice strain. This is just going to allow you to use your voice purposefully. Because we know as teachers, sometimes it's not about increasing your volume, but it's about using your voice with purpose. Being able to bring this to your mouth to get people's attention and using a whisper. It's by changing our voices that we're able to get student attention. And for students, I know that all of you have had instances where one student on one side of the room is called on, gives an answer, and the students on the other side of the room can't even hear them. So this is giving you an opportunity to use a system where everyone can be heard, where you can really enhance communication and sharing of ideas in the classroom. The components of the system. So when you walk into your room, parts of this new system that you'll see are speakers on the ceiling. You'll see a little black dome sensor. That'll have a little green LED that shows that it's receiving power. You have a teacher microphone. And I'm just going to grab a student microphone here. And a student microphone. We'll talk about the features of those two tools. You also have an amplifier that's located in your new cabinet. Inside the cabinet, when you open it up, it's at the very top, and it's secured to the top layer of that cabinet. We'll take a look at that and talk about features of that that you'll need to be familiar with. The pennant microphone is typically what you're going to be teaching, and my suggestion is, again, turn it on, put it around your neck, and just forget you have it. What I think you'll find is that you'll find this indispensable. You'll want to have this on. I know when I didn't have it on, I always felt muted. Some features of it, we'll start at the bottom, is the power button. Press and hold that to turn it off. press and hold to turn it on. When it's on, you'll see the battery light turn green. The battery's fully charged. From this microphone, you have some different controls. There's a select button next to the power button. What that lets you do is change the volume of your microphone. So up and down, I can change my volume. So this is important when you're first using the mic to set your volumes correctly. If you're hearing yourself in your speakers, it's probably too loud. So the best thing to do is have someone else in the room, and Ray, I'm going to ask you to join me. Come on up. And he's standing just a few feet away from me, but I would say stand across the room from each other and just talk about, have your normal morning conversation, and have them let you know if they're hearing you okay. Again, you don't have to hear yourself, but you should be hearing, others should be able to hear you easily wherever they are in the room, whether you have your back turned. So how's that sound, Ray?
Excellent.
So I would suggest doing that with your partners, teaching assistants. Thanks, Ray. You can have a seat. Get those volumes right, and again, you can change that using your volume controls, those large buttons, up and down. We'll talk about plugging this in. When you're using this mic, one other feature I want to show you is that sometimes you're having a conference with a student and you don't want to be amplified, but you want to turn it all the way off. If I just press and release the power button in the bottom center, you're going to see a blue light flash over where it says on. That signifies that the mic is muted. So now I'm muted. Now I'm just hearing my regular voice. I press it again, and I'm being amplified. I can, again, increase my volume, and there you see I'm being amplified. I can get that volume right so that it's filling the room with sound evenly. So, on the side of the pendant mic, there is a mic in. That's typically for a separate mic. You're probably not going to use that very much. There is a cover for the battery. This is rechargeable. Really, I would recommend changing batteries end of the school year. That way, you know, beginning of the school year, you have a fresh charge. That's pretty typical. On the right side of the mic, you have an audio in, auxiliary in. We're going to demonstrate in just a bit how you can also plug in an iPod or MP3 player, or even a tape deck, if you have those books on tape still. And you also have a port for the battery charger. On the student mic, actually more on the pendant mic, the power button again is also the button you press to mute yourself. Again, if you're having a private conversation. If it's muted, again, you'll see the blue light flashing over the word on. After 5 minutes, it will automatically turn off. When you're using your microphone, it's important that you charge this every night. Before you used to have to turn it off, but now all you need to do is plug it in. In your cabinet, on the top shelf, you're going to find a charger. It actually forks into 2 charging ports. And when you plug in your mic, there is a right and wrong way to plug this in, so make sure you're familiar with that. You'll see an arrow, and we'll show images of this as well. There's an arrow on the charging cable and an arrow on your microphone. You want to make sure that those are matching. And then you plug in that mic. And that's where I would make sure you leave it every night. That way it's fully charged. You can use it all throughout the day, the next day. Just in case, I would make sure you have some AA batteries on hand, because I think you'll find that you'll want to be using this every day. And if you didn't charge it, you can always use that regular AA battery throughout the day, and then again, charge it at night to get that rechargeable battery charged back up. I'm going to put this back around my neck and turn that on. And move it up closer to my mouth. When you are using your pendant mic, here are some indicators. The battery light, when it's solid green, means you're good to go, you got a good charge. Yellow means that it's running low on battery, and if it gets to red, it means that you're just about to run out of battery, you need to recharge, or take one of those AA batteries you have on standby and use that for the rest of the day until you have a chance to recharge your battery. When you are using the mic, controlling your volume, it's going to default to on, which means you're changing the volume on your own mic, the teacher pendant mic. You're also going to use this to adjust the volume on your student mic. So again, I'm going to have Ray come up. He's going to help you with the student mic. Make sure this is getting charged up. So Ray, I'm going to have you stand right over here. With that student mic, a couple things you'll see. There are a couple indicator lights. There is a push or a push to talk function. And there's an on switch. I typically recommend using that on switch. So Ray, I'm going to have you turn that on by flipping that switch. You'll get an indicator light to change the volume on the student mic. So this is a great way to use it. When you're using the student mic, you want to teach the students to point the mic at their mouth. They can't just hold it up. They actually want to point it at their mouth when they're talking. That way, it'll pick up their voice and amplify it correctly. So to adjust the volume for that student mic, on the teacher mic, I'm going to choose the select button. It starts at on, and I'm going to go press it again until it goes to other. That way I can adjust the volume for that student mic, and I can do it discreetly while a student's talking. Rather than having to say, hey, speak up, or hey, you're too loud, I can just discreetly adjust the volume for that student right from my teacher mic remotely. Great. Thanks, Ray. So that push to talk functionality, again, you can turn that on, but maybe save the battery on this. Push to talk, I just press that button, and then they can talk. So that's something you can train the students to do. That way they're only using it when they actually need to speak. You're not spending the battery that way. Or again, you can just turn that on so that they don't have to worry about pressing the button. With younger students, probably that's the best thing to do, is make sure it's already on. That way you just pass it around and students can be heard. Again, on this, green on the battery, on the charge light means it's good to go. Yellow means it's low, and red means you need to recharge. When you're charging, red flashing means it is charging. Constant red means it's fully charged. If it's a fast flash, it's an error, something like that's happening, you can always get a hold of us with questions. So, with either of these mics, you have that external audio input where you can plug in an MP3 player, a tape deck, a Walkman, anything that has the ability to plug into a headphone jack or what's called a 3.5 mini plug, you can plug into your mic. Now, I'm going to, I suggest when you're going to use an MP3 player or an iPod, turn on the mic and plug it into the student handheld mic. Because when you plug it into the microphone, you're not going to be able to amplify your voice with that anymore. It's going to be focused primarily on the iPod. So once you have that, I'm just going to pull something up here. And I'm now controlling the volume from my iPod. On this, you can play music, you can play podcasts, which are typically free. I know teachers who have students bring podcasts in on their devices and play them in class, cue it up to a portion that they're going to discuss. But again, it gives you some flexibility in how you use this system. Again, that's into the audio in. I'm going to turn this off once I unplug it. On the student mic, again, there is a charging port. There is, again, a right and wrong way to plug that in. Make sure you're plugging it in so that the shape, you see there's a flat end and a bottom side that has more of some other, it's not just a straight line. So do make sure you're checking that. Again, that charging station is at the top shelf of your cabinet. And I would make sure you're doing that every night. Positioning this, the pendant mic, again, along this, the neck piece, you can move this, I would suggest moving it as close as is comfortable. Be aware of any jewelry you're wearing. Typically, the distance between the tip of your pinky and tip of your thumb is a good way to judge that distance. But again, as close as is comfortable, and then adjust that sound using someone else as a gauge. Just a reminder, there is a right and wrong way to charge these. Make sure that you are connecting that correctly. The arrow on the pendant mic should be facing the bottom. On this student mic, the arrow should be facing the writing that's located at the bottom of that. Actually, there's an arrow on that pendant mic as well. So again, you're matching arrows, arrow to arrow. That's how you ensure that you're plugging that in correctly. And just another reminder, when you're setting your levels, you can hear yourself, it's probably a little too loud. You should be able to talk in a normal voice with a colleague in the room, and they should be able to hear you and hear you amplified. That's the best way to gauge that. The amplifier, which is located in the cabinet on the underside of that top level, some things to be aware of. There's an on-off switch. Those can actually be left on, but if you do switch that off, it's that far right switch as you're facing that amplifier inside the cabinet. You have some auxiliary inputs. Right now, the only thing that's going to be connected is your computer. And that's going to be controlled here, the volume of your computer. Now this is important. When you unplug that mini plug from your computer, you're going to hear a little bit of feedback, so it's important that you turn this, about the 4 o'clock position here is 0 on the volume level. When you plug your computer in, you want to turn this, and I would suggest turning it to about what would be 7 or 8 o'clock. I would test that to get your volumes right. But when you unplug, to avoid that feedback, turn it all the way down if your computer's not plugged in. I've kind of rotated this around, again, this being the top of your cabinet. Output controls on your amplifier, again, output for the computer is there. That's really the only one you're going to be adjusting while you're using this system. Underneath that amplifier, there are some tone controls. So if you don't like the sound of your voice, you feel like your voice is a little too high, you can turn up the bass. You can really just adjust it to your own personal preferences. Treble, the mid-range sounds, and the bass.
Someone to hold me tight, that would be very nice. Someone to love me right, that would be very nice. Someone to understand each little dream in me. Someone to take my hand and be a team with me. So nice, life would be so nice if one day I'd find someone who would take my hand and with me, someone to cling to me, stay with me right and wrong, someone to sing to me some little samba song, someone to take my heart and give his heart to me, someone who's really true, give love a start with me. Oh yeah, life would be so nice. I could see you and me, and that would be
Yeah, I'm ready to get in front of the camera. Just demo it.